All right, they go on to say, I've been diagnosed with ADHD, anxiety, CPTSD, depression. But like you mentioned in the podcast, I'm not even sure if the diagnostics are really that meaningful or even accurate. And in my opinion, I don't have a whole lot of stock placed in diagnosis. When I hear someone tell me that they've been diagnosed with whatever, I'm like, okay, help me understand, because first off, people self-diagnose way too much. But even that's a whole other thing. But even when another therapist diagnoses, I need to know why. I need to know what they're seeing, because I may see something completely different. And there are some diagnoses I don't even use. Well, I don't use anything right now because the places I work, I don't have to diagnose, and I really like that. And in my private practice, I don't diagnose. I don't see the function of it personally when it comes to the work that I'm doing currently. There is a function to it on a professional level as a communication tool between professionals. But that's not what we're talking about here. But yeah, when it comes to diagnosis, as far as polyvagal theory is concerned, these disorders, quote unquote disorders, we can understand these as a dysregulated person, a dysregulated autonomic state, and how that shows through cognitions and through behaviors and through things called behavioral adaptations. We can see in the lack of sociability, we can see that this person, this client in front of us, is a dysregulated autonomic state or a stuck state, and not a disorder that is somehow just kind of there. So as far as diagnosis, for me, it doesn't do much for me personally. I often disagree with diagnoses that I see, and not just me, but if you've ever been part of a treatment team, well, maybe you haven't, but for the therapists that are listening to this, if you've been part of a treatment team, you probably know people disagree regularly about diagnosis. Two therapists can see the same behaviors, the same history, the same context, and come up with different diagnoses. A psychiatrist and a therapist looking at the same diagnosis or same context, same behaviors will come up with different diagnoses. And there are potentially multiple people involved in someone's treatment. I've been in treatment teams where we have a psychiatrist, a therapist, a family therapist. There's someone doing parenting skills. We have a nurse case manager. So there's a whole bunch of people that are giving their input. And maybe only a couple of them are really doing the actual formal diagnosis, but a whole bunch of people will have different thoughts as to what the diagnosis should be. And this is based on the same criteria. It's supposed to be objective, but in reality, it's just not. So yeah, that's just some of my thoughts on diagnosis. I think there's some serious issues when it comes to diagnosing. This podcast is not therapy, not intended to be therapy or be a replacement for therapy. Nothing in this creates or indicates a therapeutic relationship. Please consult with your therapist or seek for one in your area if you are experiencing mental health symptoms. Nothing in this podcast should be construed to be specific life advice. It's for educational and entertainment purposes only. More resources are available in the description of this episode and in the footer of justinlmft.com.